Hi everyone, I'm Scott Schneider. This is Stereo Niche. Thank you for tuning in. Today is a little bit of a different format. As I was sort of prepping for 2023 and the new videos that I want to do of reviewing some of the other gear that I have, I was sort of looking through a lot of the historical information and pictures that I've captured of other gear that I had years ago that I no longer own. And so I thought that I would pull some of those things out and make a little video of them and give you a little bit of an insight into some of those pieces and some of the backstory around them. Most of them are fairly rare units. I think you will enjoy seeing most of them. So let me know if this is a format that is of interest, and I'll put together one of these little videos here and there and share them with you. So here they come. Let me know what you think. Well, this is the first system that started it off. Around this time, about 15 years ago, I had realized I didn't have a stereo in my office that I was listening to on a regular basis. And so on this particular day, I went to look at a chair for my office. And as I finished making a deal on the chair, the folks who had the garage sale were two folks who were combining into a single household. So they asked, did I need anything else? And so upon my response, I actually saw some records in the garage, and I made a quick comment that I was in the market for an older stereo. And just as I said it, the gentleman pulled back a blanket, and underneath was this system. And I was sort of surprised. Here was this beautiful Sansui system I didn't really know anything about. The only thing I knew at the time was that it was clearly vintage and that it was in great shape. He was the original owner. I made a deal with him, bought it, and then brought it home and then immediately set it up in my office. Got to setting things up, quickly realized the turntable wouldn't work right, and which was a big deal for me because I really wanted to play some records. He had included the records that he had. They weren't exactly my genre, but nonetheless, I still wanted to play some records. And so I ended up soon selling the other components, which was a reverb and a cassette deck and the speakers. I really didn't like them too much. And then bought some other things, but ironically, I ended up selling the receiver. And I got nervous at the time. I wasn't sure if I could find a tech. I felt like it was could get break or something. And for some reason I got nervous about it, and I sold it, and have regretted it ever since. But I don't have any of these pieces any longer. But that was a system that got me started. And then not long after, I picked up different things. But the next sort of, or my first big project, ironically, were these Magnepans. And although I had never really tackled rebuilding any speakers, I felt well enough in my own skills after looking at videos online on how to do it that I could certainly do this. So I bought these MG1s. They weren't working, or were barely working, I should say. The tweeters were definitely gone in both, and they were in pretty rough shape. So I thought, well, I'm going to tackle this project. So I, took off the cover and went through the zillion staples and got them naked, if you will, and then set to work on stripping off, the glue, which was probably more exposure to any toxic materials than I've ever experienced. And but I eventually got it all cleaned off. As you can see, the wires, coming up as the acetone sort of got through the glue. And then I set up a jig. I kept reading about these jigs that people would create, and so I made one and put it together, wound the wires, and then got it all back together, and bought some new covers from Magnepan, and the restore kit as well came from Magnepan, and rebuilt everything, and they played well. Quite a different sound. If you've never heard Magnepans, they're kind of unique, but anyway, in the last picture here, you'll see they turned out really well. But I passed them on at some point too. At that time, I was in a different home and didn't have the space. And so I just couldn't keep a lot of things. And so I would get some things, fix them, upgrade them, whatever, and then pass them on as I found something else. And then eventually I ran into this Sansui 3300. And oh my gosh, what a story this thing is. It was in a home, or a trailer actually, in the same place for well over 20-something years. The owner had up to 5 or 6 cats at any one time and never once cleaned this unit. And I tell you, it was, as the pictures don't look bad, but they don't really, relay how bad of the condition this unit was actually in. And I actually had to roll the windows down on the way home. It, had a certain smell to it from all the cats and everything else. And I thought for a moment I might be allergic to them, but to the cats, that is. So I bring it home, and the pictures, by the way, the first pictures are from when it was, I wiped it down initially before putting it into the vehicle. And then I proceeded to just start cleaning it. And you can see it was in really rough shape. The picture here with the knobs, you would have thought that was they were gold knobs, but no, that was just nicotine actually from smoking for all those years. And at the knob on the right, of course, is it after it's cleaned. So it took 2 weeks of continual scrubbing inside and out, and I scrubbed all the boards and really got the inside clean. And what a difference. I couldn't believe this was the same unit. In some odd way, all that grime and everything seemed to have protected it. And as you can see in the pictures here, it looked like brand new. And I eventually passed this one on as well. Everything here I no longer have. But this one I ended up selling it to a teacher, and who really wanted to set some record, had a record player and wanted to play some records. Now on to the Beveridge speakers. So the Beveridge speakers, very, very, very rare speaker. And it's an electrostat. These were a Model 5, which was the last model from Beveridge. And it's a hybrid. There is a woofer in the bottom of the speaker. And in the top 3-foot section is an electrostat. So I found these, the guy selling them. I bought some other things. They originally came from someone who was an audiophile back in the 80s, and the original buyer. And then he would buy things and set them up and play them, and then eventually move them off to the side and not play them anymore. Well, this second owner, the person I bought them from, had them, and somewhere along the way had moved them and broken off some of the speaker connectors. And so they're pretty complex. And if you don't have the diagram and know how to hook them up, they didn't work right. They didn't work at all, actually. So I brought them home, tore them down. One of the things that happens first on them is they had originally a foam grill to them. Well, that foam material eventually just disintegrates, and then the pieces get inside the electrostat. So you really want to take it out, which is what that's black long pieces here that's on its side. That's the electrostat. And you want to vacuum it out and be, of course, very careful. Well, I put it back together, and it didn't have the grill, so I wanted to use regular fabric grill, foam cover, grill cover. And so I had to make a frame, so that's what I did here. And then I put it all back together, and they're just incredible speakers. I have a larger set of Model 3 that I'll showcase eventually. I have those still. But I ended up selling these Model 5s in a very weak moment. I had them for over 10 years, and then some moment in time, someone expressed some interest, and I ended up selling them. So I wish I had never done that, but they are moved into a new home now and somebody else is enjoying them. So here's a set of DCM time frames that I bought at a garage sale. And although they were all working, they were just horrible shape. The owners had several dogs, and those dogs, I think, used them as a rubbing post for many years, and they were just horrible. So I tore the foam off, and they had some other condition issues. I ended up spray painting the foot and making it look a lot better. And then tearing when you take off the plastic strips on the back, they have these extremely long nails from a nail gun, and so you can't really pull them out of that plastic. So I had to cut them off with shears and then grind them down a little bit, and then I had to drill new holes and I took some screws and put those in there, and then painted the end of the screw heads black, and then put them all back together, and they looked fantastic. I had them in my office for a good while. Paired in this situation, I had them paired with a Fisher tube receiver, but fantastic speakers. They image like crazy. Moving into some Pioneer HPM 100s. I had found these from the original owner was the brother of someone that I got these from. There were two different sets. One set had the boxes, and the other set lost the boxes years ago. So I ended up selling the one set with the boxes. They had some condition issues. As I recall, 3 of the 4, the round tweeters were blown, and I ended up finding replacements for those, got them all back to 100% working again, fixed some condition issues, and sold off one set initially. Then before I moved, I ended up selling the other set as well. So no longer had any of these, but they sure are lookers. This was really an awesome couple of sets of speakers here. Now the Tannoy Granada. My, this was a heck of a story. I went to an estate sale. It was a professionally run estate sale, and they had these advertised. The only thing I could tell was that they were Tannoys. These cabinets, these Granada, I'm not quite sure how to pronounce it, but they were somewhat rare. I really had to do a lot of research to finally find this cabinet, and what a beauty. I mean, I really thought these were exceptional looking cabinets compared to a lot of the Tannoy cabinets that you find. But when I got to the estate sale, it was one of these where it's a tag sale. So eventually, so the way they explained it, the tag has 2 parts. The upper part of the tag has the name of the unit, or then the bottom has the same thing, and it's perforated. You tear off the bottom, has the price, and then as you get all of your tags, you then go to the checkout and you pay for everything, and then you start, after you pay, you start packing. Well, I ended up being the first to these speakers. I ripped off the tags, and as soon as I rip off the tag, one from the estate sale comes up behind me and says, "Oh, those were just sold." And I stopped for a second, and I'm like, "What do you mean they just sold? I'd have the tags in my hand." And she says, "Well, some gentleman just came straight to the table and paid for them." So I was a little bit alarmed at this, and so I start raising my voice a little bit, and I wasn't yelling by any means. And I said, "Well, so if I go and take the tags off, go downstairs and buy some other stuff that has tags, already taken, that means I can buy them ahead of other people." And of course, everyone else in the room is kind of getting alarmed, and they start voicing their concerns. And so eventually, after just a few seconds, the estate sale person says, no, that's not the case. You can, you're the buyer of the speakers. So I hurried downstairs, of course, at that point in time, and then paid for the speakers, and quickly, loaded them up, and then off I went to take them home, and then I got them set up, and very much enjoyed them. They're not just beautiful speakers. They have the 10-inch gold monitor drivers in them, and these really excel at the mid-range. Just a beautiful voicing, and enjoy them in my system for some period of time. You can see them here set up in my overall system. That's next to the Beveridge Model 5s there as well. But an awesome set of speakers. But again, I started obtaining too many things, and I eventually had to sell them and move them on to someone else. And so that's what happened to them. Well, there you go. You got to see how I got started and what sort of kicked off this this collection hobby. That Sansui system was one to remember. I do still regret selling it, but at the time, it seemed like the right thing to do. But I've regretted it for longer than it seeming like the right thing to do. So I wish I would have kept that unit, the receiver at least. I've never run across another one. Well, if you like the video, please let me know some comments. I have many more stories to relay. I'll put some of those together while I'm putting together new videos of some of the reviews of the equipment I have now. And as always, if you want to keep up with those videos, hit subscribe. And thank you for tuning in.